Right, 6 sendings off there were in the Premier League, as we said at the start, most warranted, most but not all, as we now turn to games, big games at the bottom of the table. Starting with West Ham 1, Burnley 0, Jonathan Moss. You may feel that you've heard that name before here this season, you have, but let's be clear about one thing. This is not victimisation or anything remotely near that. The reason that John Moss's name has recurred is the high incidence of mistakes that he's made this season. Simple as that. There's absolutely no other reason for it. And he's the cup final referee. So you pinch yourself again about that.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. He dismissed a Burnley player, right, for denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity.
This is Michael Duff.
Yeah. I feel sorry for Michael Duff and I feel sorry for Sean Dyche because I think they've both got a point. This was wrong. It wasn't denial. There were defenders that could come into play, and that means the criteria for Dogso is not fulfilled. I mean, I just look at this guy and I worry, you know, but the reality is he's still very inexperienced. He's only had about 87 games as a Premier League referee.
Is it fair to expose him to the FA Cup final in a season where obviously he's having a difficult time, Mark?
Yeah, listen, look, you know, John needs to be very proud that he's been given the FA Cup final, and us here at URF.com hopes he goes and has a support him. He has
Absolutely.
a terrific game. I want him to have a terrific game, go out there and do very well. But you just look at, you know, I look at other referees that have been on the list a certain amount of years and done, you know, 200, 300 Premier League games, perhaps even more. I mean, John's only been on a couple of years as a full-time referee, and as Keith said, he's only done 87 games.
But out of that, he's not had the big games. I mean, he's not had the big derby games that give him the sort of experience.
The Chelsea, Man United, the Liverpool Chelseas, the Chelsea Arsenals, Man United Arsenal, Liverpool Arsenal. He's never done any of those games.
Well, I mean, people have questioned us about, you know, we're having a go at him. No. Again, I reiterate, we want him to have a terrific weekend. FA Cup final is a massive honour to him. The reality is, those that have made this appointment, I question. I still question, and I still haven't come to terms in my own mind, that you've got a guy who is regarded very highly in Europe. Let's make clear, he's had the League Cup final, so he was good enough to referee the League Cup final. Charity Shield, good enough. Super Cup, he's had. He officiated the final at the Olympic Games. So this is a guy who's been on a number of years. I can tell you when I was in place, this was a guy that was bubbling at number 3, in the top 3, you know, and he had Howard as his main competitor, and he doesn't get the cup final. I find that almost unbelievable.
Well, you know, we can't say why the decision has been made, other than we have to assume it's by choice. But you seriously couldn't blame anybody who looked in and thought, well, this is an old pals act or some form of cronyism. It's hard to see, you know, another reason. I'm not saying that is the case. But
well, I just want to exonerate the PGMOL from this, because this is an FA appointment. Yeah. So this is made by the referees committee, headed by David Ellery, and I think those guys should be actually saying to themselves, hey, and again, reiterate, Jonathan Moss is outside this. We're not criticising him for this appointment. As referees, we want him to do well. Actually, I'll tell you this. It follows exactly the line that the FA took with Mark Halsey. Because here's a top-performing international referee like Clattenburg who didn't get the honour that he deserved because of his quality of officiating to referee the FA Cup final. And the same question that is asked about Clattenburg not getting it has to be asked about why didn't Halsey get it.
You mean face-fitting or not, as the case may be?
I just shudder about it.
Whatever the reason, and I'll leave you guys to make the comments, but whatever the reason, I have to say that from my objective viewpoint here, that decision is a travesty. There's no other way of putting it.
But you say the PGML, don't you? Do you not think for one moment Mike Riley and Kieran Barrett have had a little word with?
Well,
with
what happened in my time is the FA would come to the board meeting, the PGMOL, and say, this is our selection, and what are the views? I mean, if you remember, they selected Mike Dean. Can you remember?
Before the
Before the semi-finals,
yeah.
and you know, we've gone, hey, that can't be right. And we had to work with Mike to make certain that
You got it
we
next.
got over that problem.
Yeah.